Hello and welcome back to Typical City. This is your latest Manchester City news and transfer news. João Cancelo, what is next for him? The unwanted man. Is he unwanted? That is the question. Is he unwanted? And if he isn't, what are we going to do with him? And two defenders from Manchester City's squad rumoured to be exiting the club. One I'm happy with, I'm okay with. I'm not happy with, I'm okay with it. And the other, I definitely don't want to see him go. But let's start with João Cancelo. He's a problem. We have got a problem on our hands, a very expensive problem, £250,000 per week problem. How do you sell him? Because the world knows now that Pep Guardiola and João Cancelo have fallen out. How do you sell him? It is a hard sell going to the buyer and trying to sell and asking for potentially £60 million and requesting that amount of money and knowing that the buyer knows you don't want him. You're trying to flog him. You're trying to get rid of him. Can we do some sort of package deal like João Cancelo with a free pack of dummies so when he spits his out at your club, you've got spare ones you can shove in his gob? That'd be quite helpful. That might get him over the line in terms of a buyer, but £60 million, who's going to pay that for a 29-year-old that has proven time and time again at Juventus, at City, and even Bayern Munich? He was sulking. He got 21 appearances, 1 goal and 4 assists during his time at Bayern on loan from City, and now he's back with City. And a lot of those appearances at Bayern, by the way, were substitute appearances. He came on against City, he got booed. So I think a lot of the City fans have made their mind up. I've personally made my mind up. I want to get rid of him. And do you take him on pre-season? You know, with the whole squad going to Japan, do you want the bad apple joining the rest of the apple cart on your ventures, travelling through Japan and showcasing the treble while we're at it? Don't forget doing that as well. But I'm not convinced he was even good enough, to be honest. But from the system that we play now, Rico Lewis has stepped up to the plate, did really, really well, really proved himself as more than capable to bed himself into that first team squad. And I think next season we're going to see Rico Lewis flourish, and you'll probably hear from commentators, as they usually do, that Rico Lewis, he's all right him. He's all right him. Like City fans, they already knew that, obviously, with the very small glimpses that we saw of him last season. That is a light that is shining very brightly at City. Local lad as well, so he's already welcomed with open arms by the Blues. So João Cancelo, though, I mean, it's a very big problem. Going forward, the guy was a joy to watch. He was such a cultured player, technical and so capable, and very difficult to manage as the opposing fullback because he wasn't the quickest, but he had an amazing chop back. His delivery into the box, that one in particular, the outside of the boot to Haaland, for Haaland to make it 2-1 against Dortmund in like the 80th minute or whenever it was. That's what Cancelo, that's at him at his best. That's what he's capable of. But then you've got the João Cancelo that concedes a penalty to Fulham when you should not be going anywhere near that. You let Ederson get the ball. He got himself sent off, and thanks to a last-minute Erling Haaland penalty, with 10 men, we won the game against Fulham. Then you've got the Cancelo that lunges in on Mo Salah on the halfway line as the last man. What are you thinking? That's someone, I mean, we don't need that. And I think Pep said to the rest of the squad, at the end of last season, for the last 2/3 of the whole season, he said, I want defenders that are defending defenders. None of these technical players that... Of course, we've got capable technical players. John Stones, Ake's comfortable on the ball. Laporte, of course, as well. We've had numerous solid defenders that can defend, but your Sergio Gomez and your João Cancelo, I mean, and Kyle Walker's an amazing defender. You know, and we ended up with real solid defenders. And João Cancelo isn't that. He's a great player, but he isn't a defender, if you know what I mean. He's much more on the attacking side of his role, and that's where his strengths are. And for me, Pep made the right call. I mean, talk about getting the most... People talk about asterisks next to our achievements. You want to slap a big fat asterisk on João Cancelo's Champions League medal. That guy does not deserve one. How has he been given a Champions League medal from our City, the club? He did very little contribution towards that. Obviously, the goal that I mentioned in the Champions League, fair enough. He was part of the squad, but he was also part of Bayern Munich, the team that we knocked out. So, I mean, to be such a small significance and to get such a big achievement attached to your name as your career, it's unwarranted, in my opinion. I don't think he deserves it at all. And I mean, if that was me, I wouldn't be hanging that on my wall or anything like that. I wouldn't be shouting off the rooftops, look at my Champions League medal, everybody, the one that I sort of robbed and didn't have anything to do with. And I mean, Calvin Phillips deserves more of a Champions League medal than he does, because at least he's not kicking up a fuss in the changing room. He's not getting any minutes, but at least he's keeping his head down. He's not going into the media and kicking off and ringing his agent saying, oh, I want to leave, whinging about it and sulking in training and having to go and train by himself. And training by yourself is exactly what he should be doing if he comes with the City squad during the Japan tour and the pre-season tour. He has to be training by himself, because even if he's got mates that don't like it, you have to respect the club first. The club comes first. Pep and the team Pep's decision has to be respected. You can't have players causing the ruckus that he caused, and it spreads like a virus. United, as an example, they allow players like that in their squads and cliques that all get involved with each other, and it creates such a toxic environment. And it takes one player, and Pep Guardiola is renowned for wanting good lads, good boys like Bernardo Silva. Like he wants to leave, but you never hear Bernardo coming out. As much as City fans want to hear Bernardo say, do you want to stay or do you want to go? Just make a decision one way or the other. At least he's not going into the media and angling for a move. You know what I mean? He's not really pushing for it. He's not bad-mouthing Pep Guardiola or causing a fuss in training. And when he's asked to play, he gives 110%. Whereas João Cancelo, for me, yeah, the attitude is the problem. Again, going to his mum about it as well. We've got a lot of mummies boys here, and we're getting rid of him. Gabriel Jesus, see you later. João Cancelo, see you later. Don't need you. Then into other transfer news. I mean, Laporte is someone that I think we've all resigned to the idea that he's on his way. Back to João Cancelo, because Laporte has been linked to Arsenal as well as Cancelo. Now, as much as I want to see João Cancelo gone, I don't want to see him at Arsenal, because he is a genuinely good player going forward. He's obviously a good player. I stand by my words, as he can't defend, and he will cost Arsenal some points over the course of the season because he's rash with his defending. But, I mean, it strengthens them. It adds to the squad depth, and same with Laporte. And we're asking for 25 million, according to the MEN. That's our asking price. That's an overseas asking price. Going abroad asking price, I've got no problem with. Even then, I think it's a bit on the cheap side. I think 30 million, because he's on his age plays a role. The time that he's played at City as well, he's been a great servant for us, Laporte. So going to Juventus is the likeliest rumour of abroad, that is, and I'm happy with that. Even if it was 30 million, I'd be more happy. 25 million is on the cheap side for Laporte, don't get me wrong, but 25 million to a Premier League club, no way. Absolutely no chance. Not because that definitely would strengthen Arsenal. They've already got Saliba, Jurian Timber, Gabriel, some really good defenders, and you add Laporte to that, who can also play left back, and you're talking Cancelo as well. City have learned their lesson, and I mean, I wouldn't say we were taught anything last season, because letting Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko go to Arsenal, it didn't actually harm us in the end, and they have nothing to show for it other than one whinge bag who's taking to a podcast to bitch and moan about Pep Guardiola, and then the moment that he decided, I'm done with you, Pep, and I'm done with City, I'm leaving. Good riddance to you if that's your attitude. If you don't want to knuckle down, see you later. Out the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out, mate. Bye-bye. But Laporte's not done that. You saw him in tears when he during the end of the season, when he realised. I think that was an indication that it's already happening. It's already set in motion. He's on his way out. The other defender that City have been rumoured to be linked with, and Bayern Munich have been told that they're expressing their confidence in signing Kyle Walker. I wouldn't be if I was them. I personally think he's going to stay. I think Pep's going to keep Kyle. Because the amount of times, I'll say it time and time again, that guy's still got legs. He can still move across that pitch like no man's business. Frightening speed, and he bails us out of horrible-looking counter-attacking situations where the opposition is bursting down the wing. And there is an attacking sense to Kyle Walker that isn't, yes, on the ball, he's not the most competent. Comparing to João Cancelo going forward, for example, nothing like the technical ability of João Cancelo, but defending, Kyle Walker's got that. He's got that defensive ability, and you're not getting past him. Even Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappe, they have had nightmares against Kyle Walker. So he's not finished. He's not a finished player. He's got a lot left to offer. And in the attacking sense, he gives the forward men the freedom, because you know behind you, you've got a man who's got your back. Kyle Walker's behind you. If I lose the ball, I'm going to get done on the counter, but not when Kyle Walker's behind you, because he's got your back. And he gives Foden, Mahrez, Grealish, whoever's in front of him, that freedom to go forward and express themselves. And even if you do lose the ball, I mean, Grealish, the amount of time we saw Grealish get back last season and bail us out, but that was on the other side of the pitch, where we haven't got as much speed with Ake and Laporte and Gomez, who are not as quick as Kyle Walker, nowhere near it. But that's what I'm talking about when I talk about an attacking sense. He does give that platform and a springboard for the attackers to feel confident in your build from the back. And Pep Guardiola has stated from the get-go that the foundation is the defence, and from there we built our treble-winning team on a solid defence. And the idea of losing Laporte is depressing. It's upsetting, and I miss the guy. I mean, he was a cultured player, and still is a cultured player, and he had goals in him. I'll always remember that towering header against Brighton after they went 1-0 up at the Glenn Murray 1-0. Aguero equalised like a minute later, and then just before half-time, Laporte from a corner, bang, 2-1. Gundogan and Mahrez goals in the second half got us on to win that game. But that goal from Laporte swung the whole game, put us in the winning seat to go on, and the guy's got skills. He's an amazing player, and I genuinely will miss the guy. But Gvardiol is very likely to be coming in, so we're not losing out with the likes of Gvardiol coming in and Laporte going out. Cancelo going out. Are we really losing? Well, we didn't last season. We went and won the treble. Rico Lewis stepped up to the plate, and I think he's got the bit between his teeth now, and he's raring to go. He wants another season because I think he's hungry for more. He got a little taste, didn't he? A little dabble of what the City life in the first team is like. And I think he's hungry, and he's going to want to prove himself even more. So for me, Rico Lewis can fill the boots of João Cancelo, especially if we're asking to play inverted fullbacks, because he's another one that can play in that role. Walker is the one for me that's hard to replace because of the speed that he's got. He's the one that if you get rid of him, we are way more susceptible to counter-attacks. And Pep's first season, when we didn't win anything, and Pep Guardiola's a fraud. Yeah, well, how did that work out? The Fraudiola. Remember that? Jesus, how bad did that turn out to be? Fraudiola. But yeah, Kyle Walker's the man who bailed us out. But in that first season, I remember time and time again, we would dominate the ball. We just couldn't get that ball in the back of the net enough. We'd go 1-0 up and we'd be dominating the ball, and it would just be one counter-attack from the opposition and it's 1-1. Or we go 1-0 down and we're struggling to get back into the game. Pep addressed that. He already had Kyle Walker at that point, but Kyle Walker was the man who came in and addressed the counter-attacking problems that we had. And Rodri as well, he complements Kyle Walker by shifting across the pitch, and even more so when you've got two defensive midfielders backing up and propping up the defence behind them, the three behind them, and it's worked really well, and we haven't been susceptible to counter-attacks since Kyle Walker's arrival. So that's the man for me who I would worry about if we were to let him go. But Blues, I want to hear your thoughts on João Cancelo prominently. What do you think? Do you want to see him stay at City? Surely not. From that attitude that he showed last season and the fact that City proved that life without Cancelo is absolutely fine. No problems at all. We did not miss him. The issue for me is where does he go? And if we don't sell him, if no buyer comes along for João Cancelo, because if you are another opposition, why would you go in for him? If I'm a top tier club, a tier 1 club, even Juventus are in that category for me. If you're a Champions League, if you can get into the knockout stages of the Champions League, then I consider you tier 1, basically. If you're in that bracket of football club, are you looking at João Cancelo and considering his attitude? Are you factoring in that when you go in to buy him? Because I would be. I'd be thinking like, a good player on his day, he's got mistakes in him, highlighted them already. His attitude. If I don't play him, is he going to be pissing about, sulking and sitting in the corner, whinging and getting on the phone to his mum again about not being able to play? Because if he is, I don't want him. I wouldn't want him. And how are City going to get a £60 million asking price for that? Because that's a problem. And are we going to be left with that problem? Blues, Laporte, I want to hear about that as well. Kyle Walker, what are your thoughts on Kyle Walker? Get in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like and subscribe. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is typical City now, holding up silver.